Good evening and welcome to MetroFocus. I'm Jack Ford. A potential murder mystery is unfolding on Long Island. For nearly 60 years, a Lake Grove family had always wondered what became of their missing father. Korean War veteran George Carroll mysteriously disappeared one day back in 1961. His son Michael, long haunted by his father's disappearance, took it upon himself recently on a hunch of sorts to start looking for him in, of all places, his family home. That took place just 3 years ago, that new search. Ironically enough, what he found and how and where he found it have Suffolk County Police scratching their heads and anthropologists working to determine if the remains recovered are indeed those of Mr. Carroll. Here with the strange and in some ways incredible details of this unraveling story is Michael O'Keefe from Long Island's Newsday. Michael, welcome to you.
Hi, welcome. Thank you for having me.
So strange and in some ways incredible might be an understatement for this story, but let me ask you to start off for our viewers by giving them a quick recitation of this disappearance back in 1961, how it happened.
Yeah, sure. As you said, this man named George Carroll, he was father of four. He disappears one day. He had, like I said, he had 4 kids, 2 daughters and 2 sons. The oldest was 9. The youngest was Michael Carroll. He was 8 months old at the time. Their mother, Dorothy Carroll, told the kids that he just left the house one day and never came back. And so, it has been a 57-year mystery.
So was there ever any missing persons document filed or any police investigation into his disappearance?
No, the Suffolk County Police were unable to find any missing person report or any other report along those lines. They didn't have any records of any problems or issues, domestic violence or other issues at the home. So, there's no paper trail as to what happened to George.
So this family then goes through literally decades, multiple decades, and I imagine the children believing what they had been told, that their father had just left. What changes here? What all of a sudden gets the one son to stay? I want to start looking harder for an answer to this mystery.
There had always been sort of hints and clues and family legends and rumors around George's disappearance. Some people said that he just abandoned the family. He was a Korean War veteran, and some people thought maybe he had returned to Korea. There was also rumors and hints and suggestions that he was buried in the basement, and that was one of the stories that these poor children grew up with. So Michael, over the years, he bought the house from his mother Dorothy in the 1980s, and he became more curious about what had happened to his father. At one point, they brought a psychic into the house, and the psychic, and say what you will about psychics, but this psychic said he's buried here. Just this past summer, they brought in a team of paranormal investigators, and they said that they found some kind of an energy in the house that also indicated that he was buried there. But I think the real concrete turning point here was when Michael brought in a guy who had ground-penetrating radar, and he went through the basement, and he said, I can detect a disturbance in a specific spot 5 or 6 feet underground. And so Michael had been digging up the basement. Prior to that, he stopped because he feared it would do structural damage to the house. But once he brought in the ground-penetrating radar, his sons, who were in their 20s, they took over the job, and they spent a lot of their free time digging. And then the day before Halloween, they found these remains. Tell
me a little bit about, first of all, it's interesting, as you said, say what you will about psychics and paranormal folks, but they apparently were pointing, for whatever reason, in the right direction, literally and figuratively here. So explain what happens. What did they actually find as a consequence of this digging?
They found human bones. And what was interesting is that there was very little flesh, very little tissue left on the bones. There was some clothing, some material, but it's pretty much just human bones. And the good news for the investigators is that the skeleton was relatively intact, and that if a body is buried outside or left outside, it can get damaged by rain and weather. Animals can disturb it. Flood or fire can damage it. So the good news is that these bones were pretty intact. The bad news is that they're so old that it may be difficult, if not impossible, to extract any kind of DNA from this to determine just who this person was.
Going back to the time of the disappearance and talking to the son and listening to what he has to say, did anybody recall that there had been any structural work being done in the basement around the time of this disappearance that could possibly explain this?
Yes, yeah, that was one of the interesting things here. The police believe whoever buried this body in the basement had unfettered access to the house. There was construction going on at the time, and there was a well in the house. The home was built in 1925, and at some point, I guess around that time in the early 60s, they were capping that well, and so there was basically a wall, a little structure put around that well, and that is where they found the body. So that's the curious thing about this. The interesting thing about it is that whoever buried that body had unfettered access to the house. It was someone who was known to the people that lived there.
So has there been any suggestion, and you know this as a journalist, I'm a former prosecutor, criminal defense attorney, I've tried dozens of murder cases on both ends, and it surprises people to know that you don't have to prove a motive in order to get a conviction in a murder prosecution. But prosecutors, law enforcement will always tell you a motive is great to have driving the investigation. I know we're talking about literally half a century ago, but has there been any suggestion by the son or anybody else as to any possible motive for somebody being involved in this, what looks to be apparently a murder, and then the burial of the body? Have we heard anything about that?
Yeah, the skull had a fracture in it, which suggests, although it's not a direct causation, that maybe this person died from trauma to the head. But the family has been they've been traumatized by this. And so, they have suggested that they know some things that they're just not willing to share. And of course, until we determine who this is, it's really hard to say what happened and what the circumstances were. The police have been unable to find anybody who was a peer of George or Dorothy's, someone who's alive right now. Dorothy did have a relationship with a man shortly after her husband disappeared, and I understand they got married. That man is named Richard Doris. He just died this past summer in either Texas or Mexico. It was Nuevo Laredo. He was on a border town. So he and Michael said, he was sort of the last guy who would have any firsthand knowledge into this.
So the next steps would be what?
I think the next step is to determine if this is indeed George Carroll, and if it's not, then, wow, this mystery just really blows up. And then if it is him, it's going to be difficult for prosecutors or homicide detectives to really make a case here because there are no witnesses that they've been able to find so far. Even the DNA is problematic at this point. So we may never know who this person was or how he or she died.
Now, Michael, it's a fascinating story, and we appreciate you spending some time here with us and helping to guide us through all of this. Thanks for taking the time. We'll look forward to talking to you again soon. You be well.
Thanks for having me.